Please welcome the 14th Secretary of the Smithsonian Institution, Lonnie G. Bunch III.
Thank you. Would you tell my mom you like me? That would be nice. You know, good evening. I got to tell you, what a grand and glorious gathering we have tonight. I am so pleased that you can join us for this very special evening. You know, I'm so grateful that Smithsonian Regents are here, members of the National Board, but I want to send a special welcome to the members of Honoree and to Ava's sister, Tara DuVernay. But most importantly, a warm welcome to Ava DuVernay. You know, we are all here to celebrate a gifted filmmaker, a champion for artistic creativity and integrity, and candidly, a dear friend, as she will receive the Great American Medal tonight. Now, I gotta be honest, the Smithsonian's kind of tight. We don't give medals away. So this is pretty special that we're doing this, because we know that Ava has received so many awards from the industry. Tonight, we recognize both her excellence in filmmaking, but for me, it's her commitment to fighting for the greater good. You know, I grew up in an immigrant neighborhood, and in the immigrant neighborhood, the highest acclaim you could say about somebody was they were good people. Good people was described as someone who was unselfish, whose life and whose work made a community, a people, a nation better. Ava's good people. Because we have all been made better by her creativity, by her work. And think about it, as you'll see later, what an amazing body of work. From short films to documentaries that move us, to major feature films. She's done works based on fact and work based on fiction. They all demonstrate her ability to tell critical stories of the American experience, stories that often spotlight the African American experience, sharing much needed perspectives, stories that often are left untold and are undervalued, and Ava's given them value, given them visibility. Now, I got to tell you, I first met Ava more than a decade ago, and okay, here's my one name drop. I was hanging out in Santa Barbara with Oprah and Ava. Yep. As they say in the South, that was high cotton for a historian. And one of the joys was that Ava had a screening of Selma, an advanced screening of Selma. And as a historian, I knew the story. I knew the story intimately. I thought, I'll go, but I'm not going to learn anything new. I have to tell you, I was blown away by that film. She made a film that brought new understanding, new passion, new insights to a story that was so familiar to me. She made the familiar seem new. And that's an amazing trait. She allowed me to see Selma through her lens, and through her lens, helped me understand it in ways that were intimate and ways that were grand. In some ways, I never forgot how much that experience changed me. I never forgot how much she took history and made it richer than any historian could ever write. So as I was nearing a completion of the National Museum of African American History and Culture, I realized I needed to have a film that would allow the public to understand the centrality, the importance, the impact of African American culture. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't an orientation film, but a film that inspired. And so I must admit, I reached out to Ava, but I remember thinking to myself, she's gonna tell me no. She's gonna be nice about it, but she's gonna tell me no. And I was overjoyed when she agreed. But I must admit, when Ava first proposed her ideas for the film, August 28th, A Day in the Life of a People, I wasn't sure that we could capture the depth and the breadth of a community by centering on one day during different years of African American history and culture. But I gotta tell you, Ava's smarter than I am. The idea worked brilliantly. Ava brought nuance and humanity to history in 22 minutes that was richer than anything I could have ever imagined. I then, and I still, remain in awe of Ava's ability to touch and unwrap the souls of a people. It's a privilege to honor her tonight. It's a joy to celebrate someone who I admire. It's also nice not to be dealing with Congress, but that's another conversation. But I'm pleased tonight because we're honoring somebody whose work demands a country live up to its highest ideals. Someone whose work speaks truth to power. Ava DuVernay is a great filmmaker and a great American. But I have to tell you, she does a lot of things well, but what really impresses me, her greatest strength to me, is her ability to take the best selfies I've ever had. See, I get to be famous for a minute. The Smithsonian is honored to have Ava DuVernay in the house. Thank you very much.
Please welcome the Elizabeth McMillan Director of the National Museum of American History, Dr. Anthea M. Hartig.
Thank you so much, Lonnie, for that warm and apt introduction, for your ongoing support, for your resolute leadership, and everything that you do to ensure that this institution will endure and thrive. Good. And good evening, everyone. Buenos noches, and welcome to your National Museum of American History. For the past over 6 years, it has been my humbling honor to serve as the first woman director of this remarkable museum. Thank you. And it's truly my privilege to be your host on this momentous evening. Whether in this room or the hundreds of you joining us via webcast from across the nation and perhaps across the world, we thank you for bearing witness with us this evening as we celebrate Ava DuVernay's extraordinary contributions to the nation as a director, as a writer, as a producer, and as a film distributor, to name just a few. Before we begin our program, let us pause with gratitude in our hearts to acknowledge this layered and complex place we call Washington, D.C., and acknowledge the precedents of the Piscataway and the Nacotchtank and the Pamunkey peoples and their descendants. This is an incomplete but a humble and heartfelt acknowledgement of the layeredness of our place. And in addition to our wonderful welcome guest by Lonnie, I wish to acknowledge our esteemed National Museum of History board members, our Council for American History, Dr. Carla Hayden, Librarian of Congress, Kaywin Feldman, Director of the National Gallery of Art, and my fellow museum directors who have joined us tonight, and moreover, my devoted public servants, my museum colleagues. We're also so pleased to welcome Ava's family, and I want to give a special shout out to Telaine Jones, the president of Honoree, who's truly been our partner. Here at the National Museum of American History, our mission is to empower people to create a more just and compassionate future by preserving, sharing, interpreting the complexities of our past. Visitors like the, I don't know, maybe 6,000 eighth graders today, fill our halls with some raucous laughter and admonitions not to run in the museum. But it's wonderful to see them pause in front of an object and try and figure out what it is. And I had one fellow tell me today that, he loved history and he really loved cars. I said, well, I love history and I really love cars too. Go see America on the move. But hopefully visitors are inspired and challenged to seek truths and grapple with the nation's restless and very uneven and unfinished pursuit of its most high ideals. And in service to this mission, the museum presents its most prestigious award, the Great Americans Medal. It's presented to individuals whose lifetime contributions embody American ideals and ideas. The award recognizes trailblazers who have made lasting impact in their fields, but whose philanthropic and humanitarian endeavors set them apart. Ava DuVernay exemplifies these attributes. She courageously makes real James Baldwin's 1963 conclusion that American history is longer, larger, more varied, more beautiful, and more terrible than anyone has ever said about it. And tonight, we are so honored to make her the 10th recipient of the Great Americans Medal. Joining, as you saw, some illustrious figures: Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Billie Jean King, General Colin L. Powell, Yo-Yo Ma, Cal Ripken Jr., Secretary Madeleine Albright, Paul Simon, Dr. Anthony Fauci, and Tom Brokaw. We are truly and eternally grateful to Smithsonian Regent Emeritus David M. Rubenstein, for his ongoing support of this medal and our entire philanthropy initiative here at the museum. Of course, David's accompanying interviews trace the arc of the honorees' personal lives and careers to deepen our understanding of our shared democracy and shared values. We also thank board member emeritus Jeff Garrett, who created this beautiful 14-karat gold medal, which is designed by Michael Guilfoyle and inspired by the museum's rare double eagle coins from the presidency of Theodore Roosevelt that are in our National Numismatics Collection. As you can see by both the representations, it's an American eagle with sun rays and the museum's treasured Star-Spangled Banner. And speaking of Star-Spangled, please join me in watching a video about Ava's remarkable career and impact.
The Smithsonian's 10th Great Americans Medal honors Ava DuVernay for her extraordinary impact as a director, writer, producer, and film distributor whose groundbreaking storytelling across mediums amplifies voices and advances social justice. Born in 1972, Ava DuVernay was raised in the Compton neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. During summer vacations, she traveled to her father's childhood home near Selma, Alabama. It was there, surrounded by history, that DuVernay first heard stories of the 1965 Selma to Montgomery marches, an experience that would later inspire her historical drama, Selma. DuVernay attended UCLA, graduating with a double major in English literature and African American studies. She eventually pursued a career in public relations, and it was during her time as a publicist on Michael Mann's film, Collateral, that she was inspired to step into filmmaking with her documentary, This Is the Life. In 2010, she made her narrative feature debut with I Will Follow, inspired by the loss of her aunt to breast cancer.
My first love of film was sparked by my Aunt Denise. She would take me to matinees, and it was her that helped me to first fall in love with film.
Ava DuVernay's breakthrough came in 2012 with Middle of Nowhere, winning her the Best Director award at Sundance, making her the first Black woman to achieve the honor.
Here we go. Turn and march.
DuVernay's filmmaking quickly gained momentum. Her next film, Selma, earned international acclaim and a Best Picture Oscar nomination.
It is unacceptable that they use their power to keep us voiceless. Those that have gone before us say no more.
Her documentary, 13th, garnered a BAFTA and a Best Documentary Oscar nomination, making DuVernay the first Black woman director to be nominated in either category in the history of the Academy. She later went on to break another record with A Wrinkle in Time, which made her the highest-grossing black woman director in U.S. box office history. Her success brought into focus a need for greater inclusivity and representation in Hollywood. DuVernay continued to lead by example. She co-created Queen Sugar with Oprah Winfrey in 2016, hiring only women directors and providing opportunities to 42 women over 7 seasons. It became the longest-running African-American family drama in television history. In 2011, she founded the African-American Film Festival Releasing Movement, later rebranded as Honoree, a multi-platform arts and social impact collective dedicated to narrative change. Honoree catalyzes its work through 4 mission-driven entities: the film distribution arm, Honoree Releasing, the production company, Honoree Filmworks, the programming and production hub, Honoree Creative Campus, and the nonprofit group, Honoree Alliance.
So I came to realize that those dreams I'd been dreaming, what was the problem, what was the error? And it's because the dreams were too small. If your dream only includes you, it's too small.
In 2019, Ava DuVernay released When They See Us on Netflix, the true story of the exonerated 5, earning 16 Emmy nominations and 2 wins. Her most recent film, Origin, an adaptation of Isabel Wilkerson's novel, Cast, funded through the Ford Foundation, Melinda French Gates, and Laureen Powell Jobs, among others, is a powerful exploration of the caste system's legacy across the world.
Everywhere, all over the place. There's connective tissue. All of this, all of it is linked.
And I was so fascinated by her thesis in this film, which basically states that there is something underneath all of the isms that we experience in our lives across the world and across time. There's this thing underneath it all called caste.
Among her many honors, Ava DuVernay has received a Peabody Award and been named one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people in 2017. In 2020, she was appointed to the Directors Branch of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences Board of Governors, where she continues to drive change from within. Ava DuVernay isn't just a filmmaker. She's a visionary, a trailblazer, and an inclusive and expansive storyteller who creates space and opportunities for others. The National Museum of American History is proud to honor her artistry, advocacy, truth-telling, and generosity of spirit. Ava DuVernay, director, writer, producer, and film distributor. And now, the Great Americans Medal, honoree.
Keep it going, and please welcome to the stage the 10th recipient of the Great Americans Medal, Ava DuVernay, with Secretary Lonnie G. Bunch III, Smithsonian Institution Regent Emeritus David M. Rubenstein. Hi, thank you. Thank you. Yes, you do the honors, yes. Yeah. As David carefully picks this up, Ms. DuVernay, on behalf of the National Museum of American History, the Smithsonian Institution, and a grateful nation, it's my extraordinary honor to present you with the Great Americans Medal. Thank you, David. And if you will, please allow me to read the medal citation, which is to your right-hand side of the stage. The National Museum of American History proudly presents the Great Americans Medal to Ava DuVernay for her extraordinary impact as a director, writer, producer, film distributor, whose work casts an unflinching eye on American history. for visionary storytelling that advances social justice, creating a body of work that challenges, educates, and inspires, and using her platforms to expand access and opportunity, for changing the very architecture of the American film canon, bringing forward difficult truths, seeking understanding, and building a more just and compassionate world. With a passion for uplifting those who are often unheard, Ava DuVernay exemplifies the highest ideals of artistry, altruism, and advocacy. Through these values and achievements, she defines service at the highest level and the true meaning of a great American, given this 8th day of May 2025. So if you'd please allow us just a few minutes, we'll take a few pictures, and then I'll turn it over to Ava.
Well, thank you all for being here. This is quite the night. Thank you to the National Museum of American History. Thank you, Dr. Hardick, so much for this, and to the remarkable leadership of the Smithsonian institutions for bestowing upon me this truly incredible honor. Thank you to my sister, Tara, who woke up in Montgomery, Alabama this morning and made it here, and will turn right back around tonight. Thank you, Tara. Tara is the Deputy Director of the Equal Justice Initiative, Brian Stevenson's. Very proud of her. Another great institution. Thank you to my great friends, especially to Lane Jones, the Garima family, Donovan Burns, and the Burns family for being with me here tonight. It's not lost on me what it means to stand in this place, supported by an institution that understands the weight of history and the wonder of telling it well. That understanding feels especially urgent now, at a time when truth itself is under revision and fear feels like an animating force. Fear of mirrors, fear of memory, fear of the full American story told in its dazzling complexity and devastating contradictions. History's not a weapon to be sheathed when inconvenient. It is not a bedtime story meant to lull us to sleep. It is a river, flowing, deep, and often turbulent. And the Smithsonian has long been the bridge that lets us cross with care. We know that what is sometimes labeled improper ideology is in fact connective. That's what some call distorted. It's simply a new perspective, long buried, now revealed. Let me tell you about a child who walks into the Smithsonian museums and sees a photograph of a woman who looks like her mother or her grandmother, standing tall in protest or in prayer or in pride. Let me tell you about a teacher who brings students here because their textbooks will not speak of redlining or Tulsa or internment camps or Stonewall. Let me tell you about families, Black, white, Native, immigrant, who walk through the doors of Smithsonian museums and feel that this country might just make room for them after all. That is not indoctrination. That is belonging. That is education. That is democracy. At the helm, thank you. At the helm stands a man of vision, of class, of fortitude, Secretary Dr. Extravagant Lonnie Bunch. The first historian to lead the Smithsonian, a curator of courage, a guardian of good, a builder of bridges between pain and progress. Under his outstanding stewardship, let me say it again, the Smithsonian has done what America must continue to do,
confront the contradictions in our founding, illuminate the fault lines in our systems, and still hold space for grace, for grit, for growth, and for true greatness. Because the truth is, there is no honor in history that flatters itself. There is no integrity in memory that only remembers some. And there's no future in forgetting. To those who would close their eyes to injustice, who would silence the voices of our elders, our ancestors, our scholars, our artists, I offer this. We will not comply with forgetting. We will not make myths in place of memory. We will not trade the truth for contortions and comfort. Instead, we will gather, we will remember, we will teach, we will share, we will tell it all. Let us hold that line and let us remind those who try to restore a narrow, divisive view of the past that the future belongs to the whole of us. And even when the current swell is upon us, the bridge will hold because truth deserves passage. And with the Smithsonian and this museum, we do not cross alone. Thank you for tonight very much.
As they get settled, thank you, Ava, for that poignancy, for that power, for that beauty, and for that poetry. And of course, for your example, to live in one's truths, to live in one's agency. It's my great pleasure, of course, to see what you can see here, a conversation between our most recent and esteemed great American, Ava, and interviewer extraordinaire, David.
Thank you very much. You know from the show business world that it's when you do something great, it's hard to top it. And so following what we've just seen, your remarks, it's going to be difficult to top that in this interview. But we'll do the best we can. So,
well, let me say first that I'm honored to sit with you. Thank you for your support of
Thank
all
you.
of the Smithsonian museums,
Thank
but
you.
also you're quite the interviewer. Some folks have prepared me, so I'm ready.
so have you ever thought of making a movie about interviewers yet? Now, you should think about that. So, how do you compare the relative pleasure of being nominated as the first African-American woman to be nominated for an Academy Award, Best Picture, with the pleasure of having a Ben and Jerry's ice cream flavor named after you, with the pleasure of having a doll named after you? How do you compare these pleasures? What's better, a doll named after you, a Barbie doll, Ben and Jerry's, Academy Award? How did you compare those?
Thank you for the question. All wonderful moments that I really enjoy because they speak to the power of cinema to kind of move and shape and shift culture off screen. And so I've been able to enjoy some beautiful kind of pop culture moments that I think help when I'm trying to make people watch movies about caste. And so, you know, these moments allow folks to perhaps know me a little bit, trust me a little bit when I, you know, try to make you watch a movie about the 13th Amendment. And so it all goes hand in hand.
So let's talk about your background, how you came to be the person you are today. So you grew up in L.A.?
Yes, sir.
And
Compton specifically.
Okay, and when you were growing up, did you say, I want to be a producer, director, writer of movies? Is that what you said you wanted to do when you were a little girl?
No, I had no idea that any of that would be possible for me.
Okay, so what did you want to be when you were in college? What was your career ambition then?
I was interested in being a journalist.
Okay, and so you got a job as a journalist right afterwards, covering a small trial that was done. It was the O.J. Simpson trial.
That's right.
So how did you get assigned to that trial right out of college?
I fought hard for this very prestigious internship with the CBS Evening News at that time with Dan Rather and Connie Chung, if anyone remembers her. And I was in the LA bureau, and I was assigned to this big case and was very excited about it. And came to the bureau my first day, had my little briefcase in hand, ready to go, and they said, okay, here's your dossier. You are assigned to a juror. And I said, thank you very much. And I said, so what would you like me to do? And they said, well, we want you to go and sit outside of the juror's home, and if you feel so inclined to look through the garbage, it's there for you. And at that point, this is right when, it was right on the edge of kind of a bit of the tabloid journalism. It was a sensational trial. I don't blame anyone. But I decided that I would rather do other things.
Okay, so you decided to get out of journalism, and next thing you did, you went into public relations, and why did you not like that so much?
I loved that so much.
So why'd you get out of that?
I love it and could still be doing it, but
Okay.
while I was on the sets of some of my clients, I started to become interested in filmmaking, and as the video said, beautiful video, whoever put that together, thank you so much. Shout out to the editors. I was on the set of Michael Mann's film Collateral with Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx, Jada Pinkett, Javier Bardem, and I saw Michael directing, and I thought, oh, I want to do that. I want to be in charge. And so I did.
Okay, so sometimes people go to Hollywood or get involved in the movies because they want to be an actor or an actress, but that wasn't your ambition. You wanted to be behind the cameras. Why did you never want to be an actor or an actress? Or
because I'm a horrible actor, and I wanted to be the teller.
Okay.
I wanted to be the maker. I wanted to be in control of the story.
Right. So when you made your first, what was your first film that you made?
My first film was a very small short film that I made on my vacation. So my first 5 films, I still worked my day job. And so it was a first small film called Saturday Night Life about my mother that I made on a Christmas vacation.
And what was the reaction to it when you showed it to people?
People were very nice. I look back at it now, and I understand the kindness of strangers and the kindness of friends. But it was enough to encourage me to try again.
So you began making a number of those short films, but at what point did you say, it's going to be hard for me to really break into the big business here because women and African Americans are not exactly favored so much in Hollywood? Did it occur to you that was going to be a problem?
Yeah, I was aware of that. But the thing was, I had been working as a publicist in the entertainment industry for about 7 years at this point, and was very sober about what the prospects were. It's very different than it is now. It didn't feel like there was a possibility to make any of the things that I make now on a consistent basis with the kind of support that I do. And so I just thought I will make small independent films, take them on the film festival circuit on my vacations in summer, and that's a nice hobby. I really thought it would be a nice side hustle, a side thing to do. I could tell my stories, I continue doing PR, and I thought, wow, what a great life this will be.
So what did your family say when you said, I'm going to be doing this on the side, and they tell you that's not nice for you to do, but make sure you keep your day job? Did they say that?
You know, they were very supportive, and I'd have to say my mother and father have always cheered me on. But there was never any risk that I was going to quit my job. I'm the oldest of 5. I'm very sensible. I'm the responsible one. So
Okay.
there was no point in telling me that I needed to keep my job. I had intended to do that until I won a big award.
At what point did you say, I don't need to keep the job because I'm actually pretty good at this and I can make a living doing it? When did that occur?
When I won Sundance. And then I thought, one of my clients called me. It had been such a secret that I had been making films. I'd just been making these small films. And one of my clients at Warner Brothers actually called me and said, Ava, do you know there's someone another person named Ava DuVernay who won an award? And I said, oh my gosh, what, really? And I had to come clean and really let my clients know I've been making films on the side, and there's any time to stop and try it full time, it's now. So
And what was that film that won the Sundance?
It's called Middle of Nowhere.
Okay, and what was that about?
It is about a woman who is doing time with her partner. So when we look at the prison industrial complex, we think about the men and women behind bars, but often do not understand that there are whole families sisters, mothers, daughters, who are wives, who are behind bars as well. They may walk amongst us, but they are also doing time. And so it explored a woman who's in that very opaque space.
So after you won the Sundance Prize, did people say, here's plenty of money, do whatever you want with it, and make some more movies?
No.
No.
No. That's usually, often at that time, that was what a lot of my white male counterparts experienced. Big offers for studio films. That didn't happen for me, but a few nice things came my way.
Okay, so where did you get the money to make your first feature film?
The first feature film, I saved my money. My mother had really had she's watching on live stream in California. Hi, Mom. She had really had an idea in my head. Parents, you guys get ideas in your head about things you want your children to do. She was intent. She wanted me to buy a home by the age of 27. But instead, I bought a career, I say, because I used that money to make the first film.
All right, so what was the first feature film?
First feature film was called I Will Follow.
Okay, and what was it about?
It was about the loss of my aunt, Denise, who really, in my real life, gave me a love of movies. It's a fictional account of that relationship.
Okay, so when you decided to make Selma, your father had grown up in that area?
Yes, he grew up in Lowndes County, Alabama, between Selma and Montgomery.
And so when did you decide I'm going to make Selma, and did people tell you this is too big a story, you're not experienced enough to do this, too much money? When did people tell you couldn't do this? Right at the beginning, and when did you tell them you were going to do it anyway?
I was the 7th director on Selma. They had asked many people, and so different directors were on. Spike Lee was on at one point. Paul Greengrass was on. Great directors were on. The material, the story was attracting wonderful filmmakers. The budget was repelling wonderful filmmakers. The budget, a $20 million budget, is truly not enough to make a period piece. So you imagine every item of clothing has to be period. Every street light has to be changed. Every building has to be just right. You can't just go out and shoot. And so it sucks money, and $20 million wasn't enough. But along comes a woman who just won Sundance, and my film before was $200,000. So when they said $20 million, I said, $20 million? Yes, I will make that movie. And
how long did it take you to direct that movie and produce it?
We made it in under a year. So
Under a year.
30
Okay.
days shooting, and pretty fast.
All right, we have an excerpt from Selma. Can we show that now?
I'd be honored.
About 525 Negroes had left Brown's Chapel and walked 6 blocks to cross Pettus Bridge and the Alabama River. They were young and old, and they carried an assortment of packs, bedrolls, and lunch sacks. The troopers were waiting 300 yards beyond the end of the bridge. Behind the troopers were dozens of possemen, 15 of them on horses, and perhaps 100 white spectators.
You swim? Not many swimming pool for black folk where I come from. Yeah.
Andy, it's Bayard. Everybody there?
Yes.
Turn on CBS right now, Andy. Right now. You have a TV there.
Yes. Now?
Right now.
Turn on the television set.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special bulletin from CBS News.
Give him 2 minutes. Stand right there.
We're ready.
This is an unlawful assembly. You have 2 minutes to disperse. Go home or go to your church. This march will not continue.
2 minutes.
May I have a word with the Major?
There's no word to be had.
Major Cloud, may we speak with you?
Troopers, advance!
$70 million people are watching this.
The first 10 or 20 Negroes were swept to the ground, screaming, arms and legs flying, packs and bags went skittering across the grassy divider. Those still on their feet retreated. A cheer went up from the white spectators lining the south side of the highway.
Come on. Don't stop it!
The troopers continued pushing, using both the force of their bodies and the prodding of their nightsticks. Suddenly there was a sharp sound like a gunshot, and a gray cloud spewed over the troopers and the Negroes. But before the cloud hit it all, there were several seconds of unobstructed view. 15 or 20 nightsticks could be seen through the gas, flailing at the heads of the marchers. The Negroes cried out as they crowded together for protection, and the whites on the sidelines whooped and cheered. From the hospital came reports of victims suffering fractures of ribs, heads, arms, legs. The Negro leader, John Rose, despite injury from a possible skull fracture, led the marchers back to the chapel after the encounter with officers. He said, "I don't see how President Johnson can send troops to Vietnam and can't send troops to Selma, Alabama, to which the Negroes present roar their approval.
Where do you get all those old cars and clothing? Is that hard to find, all those old cars and clothing, or that's a secret?
They're available.
Available.
Yes,
Okay.
they're around.
And so when you're shooting that, how many hours a day can you shoot in that particular case? Were you there shooting 5-6 hours a day?
You can do an 8-hour day, a normal work day for our crew.
Oh, okay. So after you did Selma, you did another film we're going to show a clip of. And this is a film you did called 13th. And you did this 13th Amendment freed the slaves in our country. But your point, I think, in 13th is, while slavery is illegal, we have some other challenges that we have in our society. And you might describe what those were in 13th.
Yeah, no, it talks about, the documentary is basically about criminalization and kind of legal criminalization, the ways in which African Americans have continued to be under some kind of legal supervision in the United States continuously. And the current iteration of that is an aggressive police presence in our communities.
Okay, so you did this in conjunction with somebody else?
No, did it all by myself.
Okay, I thought you had a consultant from, you had worked with a legal consultant, Stevenson, no?
Brian Stevenson?
Yeah.
He's in it. He's one of the many experts in it.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
right. Okay, why don't we show that clip?
Okay. I'm moving so you don't see my head.
The Bureau of Justice reported that 1 in 3 young black males is expected to go to jail or prison during his lifetime, which is an unbelievably shocking statistic.
Black men account for roughly 6.5% of the U.S. population. They make up 40.2% of the prison population.
We now have more African Americans under criminal supervision than all the slaves back in the 1850s.
The prison industrial complex relies historically on the inheritances of slavery.
The 13th Amendment says no involuntary servitude except for those who have been duly convicted of a crime. So once you've been convicted of a crime, you are in essence a slave of the state.
The stroke of a pen is not self-enforcing, and so while the 13th Amendment is hailed as this great milestone for freedom and abolitionists celebrate, and this is the end of a lifelong quest, the reality is much more problematic. Well, once that clause is inserted in there, it becomes a tool. It's there, it's embedded in the structure, and for those who seek to use this criminality clause as a tool, it can become a pretty powerful one because it's privileged. It's in the Constitution. It's the supreme law of the land.
Throughout American history, African Americans have repeatedly been controlled through systems of racial and social control that appear to die, but then are reborn in new form tailored to the needs and constraints of the time. After the collapse of slavery, a new system was born, convict leasing, which was a new form of slavery. And once convict leasing faded away, a new system was born, a Jim Crow system that relegated African Americans to a permanent second-class status. And here we are, decades after the collapse of the old Jim Crow, and a new system has been born again in America, a system of mass incarceration that once again strips millions of poor people, overwhelmingly poor people of color, of the very rights supposedly won in the civil rights movement.
And so instead of talking about it, we just tried to move on. After the Civil Rights Act was passed and after the civil rights laws, we tried to play it off. And because we didn't deal with it, that narrative of racial difference continued. And it turned into this presumption of dangerousness and guilt that follows every black and brown person wherever they are.
So as you're moving forward in your career, do you find people laugh at your jokes more? People give you restaurant reservations more easily as you become a bigger deal in Hollywood? Is life easier or it's not any easier?
Absolutely easier.
Right. Okay. And so today, when you call an actor and say, I'd like you to be in one of my movies, is it more likely that they will say yes than it was 10 years ago? And today, do you find it difficult to get financing for the movies you want, or it's still a challenge?
I enjoy a good proximity to many actors who seem to want to work with me. I think the thing about it, though, is, my films, what I'm interested in are the lives of Black folk on film. And so it becomes more difficult to find non-Black actors who want to support a Black protagonist, a Black leading lady. And so, for example, on my latest film, Origin, the lead was the great Ingenue Ellis Taylor. She had, thank you. I don't know why I'm saying thank you for her. She's fantastic. But she's the lead, and there was a prominent secondary role for a white actor to play Isabel Wilkerson's husband. And there was difficulty in attracting, some of the big actors in town who say, I really want to work with you, to be second to a Black woman. And so that's what I find more, and we were very fortunate that John Bernthal stepped up. Oh. And I'll have to just tell a quick story, if I may. John Bernthal, who I'd only known as the Punisher at that point, wasn't super familiar with the work, and so he said, well, I'm going to fly myself out to meet her. So I was prepping the movie in Savannah, Georgia, and John Bernthal was flown into town to see me. This has never happened for me as a Black woman filmmaker, that a white actor has pursued a role to be a supporting character to a Black woman lead. So I always like to say that about him because it's rare and we need to see it more. Yeah.
So how do you compare the relative challenges of writing a script, directing the movie, and producing it? Which is more fulfilling, which is more challenging, which more time-consuming?
The writing is the most challenging part. I don't feel like I'm a natural writer. I'm very fortunate that I can do it. And I think that, I can do it. I have a great friend, Ryan Coogler, who's experiencing a lot of success with Sinners right now. So proud of him. He's a natural writer. So I remember one time several years ago, I called him and I said, hey, brother, what you doing? How you doing? And he's just like, yo, sis, I'm in the coffee shop. And I said, oh, okay, getting some coffee, you want to call me after? No, I'm here all afternoon. I said, what you doing in the coffee shop? He'd already done big movies by then, and he said, writing. I said, you writing in the coffee shop and you sound really happy about it? And he's like, yeah, it's my writing day. Like that excitement about writing, I don't share. But I can do it, and it allows me to, generate the stories that I'm excited about. I love to produce, I love to direct, and fortunate to be able to do all three.
So a number of years ago, there was a young woman who was attacked by some people in Central Park, and 5 young...
She was attacked by one person in Central Park.
One person. Mm-hmm. But 5 young Black men were accused and convicted of having committed this crime, and they were sentenced to prison. They served time. Later, DNA and other evidence showed that wasn't the case. You decided to make a movie about it. Was it hard to get financing for that movie, When They See Us? Was it hard to get the money for that?
No, it wasn't. That was great partners at Netflix who also financed 13th. At that point, I don't know why they were just giving money away. I can't remember what had happened, but it was. I pitched it, and they came on board very quickly.
And how long did it take to film that?
Oh gosh, I'm from California, so I really enjoy the sprawl of the landscape. New York is not for me, so I will say it was 13 very tough months in New York City.
But you filmed it in New York City?
I did.
Okay, well, you have an excerpt from that. Can we share that?
I'm happy to share it.
You watch them grow. to think you did a good job. And in one night, you look away. One night.
Kevin Richardson, please stand. Antron McCray, please stand. Yusef Salam, please stand. Raymond Santana Jr., please stand. Corey Wise, please stand. The matter of the state of New York. As to the count of rape in the first degree. As to the count of assault in the first degree. As to the count of assault in the second degree. As to the count of riot in the first degree. As to the count of rape in the first count of robbery, count of attempted murder in the second degree. As to the count of sexual abuse in the first degree. To the count of attempted murder of Patricia Miley. The jury finds the defendant guilty.
When you're filming a scene, typically how many times do you do a take before you say it's a wrap, we're okay? Or is that takes 3 times, 4 times, or?
Yeah, well, that particular work there with those young men, and I have to just speak to the brilliance of working with actors and asking them to, really go to dark places. And something like that, I'm really trying to see, can I work with what they've given me, because it's so hard for them to do. So instead of, some directors just want to, continue to kind of get to perfection. I cut in my head, so I know if I've got a piece of what I need, I'll move on. So it really depends on what part of the story we're telling, but a lot of the more painful parts I try to keep to a minimum for the actors.
So sometimes if somebody's taking a picture of me or other people, they'll say, that's a really good picture, can we do it again? And do you ever have that where you say, that's a really good job, let's just do one more take? You ever had that? How do you?
I try not to lie to them.
Oh, you say that was terrible, and
so I try to tell them the truth in the moment, because most artists really want to know. So I don't tell them it's good if it's not, because when I ask for something and I really need it, they won't believe me. So my job is to say, we're getting closer, or this was a part that you wanted to work on and we didn't quite get there, or I'm not happy yet, would you be willing to go again? Or all kinds of ways to say, we're doing it one more time. But yes, I often ask.
Do you ever say to yourself, but not to somebody else, I cast the wrong person for this job, or you never do that?
It has happened.
Oh, okay. And so you never actually fire somebody when you've already hired them. You just work around them or deal with it best you can.
Someone when I don't think I've fired an actor when I've hired them. No, I don't think that's happened.
Okay.
I usually try to work with it and see, get it there.
Okay, so another book came out not long ago. It was a #1 bestseller for over a year, I think, by Isabel Wilkerson called Caste. And the essence of it is that society throughout thousands of years has had castes. We have that in our country as well. We started with slavery, and we still have castes as well. Was that a difficult movie to get your hands around in terms of how to film that one? And you did that did you do that in 2023?
24, yes. Yes, it was. You know, I felt like I had an idea for it. The book is an anthropological thesis. It's a nonfiction book. I could have made a documentary about it, but I think there's a kind of an empathy machine that works at its highest level when you're dealing with an actor. And so I decided that I wanted to make it with actors. And so the question was, how, I don't know how many of you all have read, how many have read the book? Okay. So how do you make that into a film with actors, because there's no main character? So I read the book a couple of times and I thought, oh, there is a main character in it. It's the author herself, as she tells us the information that she's learned. And so the idea for the film was to chronicle the author as she's writing the book, and it just so happens that her life was fascinating during the time that she was writing the book. And so that's how I put it together, and it's a bit of an irregular narrative structure, but I'm really happy with the way it turned out.
So when you have a #1 bestseller, when there's a #1 bestseller like that, do you have to compete with other producers to get the rights to that, and?
No, interesting thing. I'll tell a quick story about it. So the book came out in 2020, and as we all know, we were there. 2020 was a rough year. And so we're in the middle of the summer of the pandemic, and this book comes out. And it's an Ava book. Like, everyone thinks I'm reading the book. Now, I have the book. Many people have sent me the book. The publisher sent me the book. People have sent me the book. These books cast. I have 3 copies on my nightstand. I'm not reading the book. I'm grieving the loss of a loved one from COVID. I am, watching, protests and participating in protests in the street over the murder of George Floyd. I'm not really into reading a huge 500-page book about caste until I'm at an industry function, and the most famous director that we all know. So just think of the most famous director. When you ask most Americans, name a director, they say him. He says to me, "Oh, I heard you're making Caste into a movie." And I said, I haven't even read it. I didn't tell him that. I said, maybe. And I went home and I read it. And I instantly thought, oh my gosh, there's something fascinating here that people must know. And for the people who won't invest the time to read the book, how do we get that out? So surprisingly, I had read it in the fall, which means many months had passed. And oddly enough, no one had stepped up to adapt it. And so there was no competition.
Okay.
And I was able to grab the book with the graciousness of Isabel Wilkerson, and she was kind enough to let me tell my version of the story.
So when she saw your movie, what did she say?
Well, she was beautiful in giving me 2 years of research. So if you watch the film, half of it, the reason why I didn't call it Caste is half of it is her book and her deep, deep research for many, 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 many years. And the other half is her personal life. So she was really generous in giving me 2 years of answering any question I had, not just about Caste, but about her personal life. And if you've seen the film, there are many very challenging and tragic things that had happened to her during the time that she was writing the book. So, it's not the most easy film to watch about oneself, I would imagine, and she's been nothing but kind to me.
All right, we have an excerpt of that. Show that.
Okay.
Go!
It was a hot day like today. We were pretty excited because we had just won the city championship. And the coach told us he was bringing us to this park. And we were going to get to eat and go swimming, and we were quite excited, as you can imagine. And then the park ranger came over and pointed out Al.
Hey, boy!
sir?
You can't be in here right now. You know better. Who you with? Everything okay here? This boy with your team? He's one of my players. You know how long it take for our maintenance crew to clean this up? Disinfect it?
Disinfect
This is a
what?
whites-only pool.
We didn't know, being young kids, we didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah.
And yet we wanted to go in the pool because it was so hot that day, too. And then the park ranger, he said, if he goes in, nobody goes in.
Well, how was I to know there was a party going on? There was a splishing and a splash, and reeling with the feel, and moving and a groove, and rocking and a rolling. Hey, yeah!
So they took Al outside to a blanket out there. But, you know, we kept looking back at Al and seeing why was he over there. So a few of my friends and I went over to talk to him and to make sure he was okay.
So it felt strange when that happened, that he was over there and you guys were
Yeah,
here.
it
You
felt
knew it was-
separate. He was on our team.
Right,
And he was a big part of our team, and then they wouldn't let him in. Some of the parents brought him over some food to eat.
He was out there by himself.
By himself.
Oh.
And then the coach talked to the park ranger again and said, hey, you gotta let this kid in, at least for a little swim.
Yes, yes.
So he talked to the coach and he said, there's only one way I'm gonna let this happen.
Buddy out. Come on now. Come on. Come on now. Come on.
Cannot touch that water, boy. Hear me? Keep your balance. Do not touch that water. Hold still. Real still. Don't touch that water.
It really affected us and we didn't know what to do.
Right.
And it still bothers me today. As a kid, just want to play baseball and swim. We didn't know what to do. And I wish I could do it over again. Because I don't think I did enough.
How old were you?
I was 9 years old.
Albright went on to become an artist and educator. He was the first full-time Black faculty member at his alma mater, Youngstown State University. I missed talking to him for the book by a matter of months. He passed away at age 82, but a part of him died that afternoon in 1951. You're going to be fine.
So, what do you do in your spare time?
Well, first of all, I want to thank the Smithsonian and Dr. Hardig and everyone here, to you, David, for allowing me to select clips that go longer than what they allow me to show in Hollywood. I really wanted to share the heart of the stories, and so I really appreciate the time and the space to do it. What do I do for fun? Well, I have a wonderful leading man in my life who makes sure that I get out of the editing room and off the set and enjoy life, and so that is a nice thing to have.
So you going to be cast in any of your movies or no?
He's a leading man that stays at home.
Okay.
Yes.
And does your mother still give you advice about what to do?
My mom? Yes. My mom is a big fan. My mom's favorite thing that I've ever made is a television show that I made called Queen Sugar. And thank you. All she wants me to do is more Queen Sugar. She asks me every week, what's happening with Queen Sugar? I said, Mom, we did it for 7 seasons. It's over. And she said, well, what about season 8? Sometimes she asks me, what are the characters doing today? So I'll make up a little story for her. But yeah.
For a young black woman or young black man who wants to get into the movie business and be like you, what would your advice be? How would you break into it today? Is it harder today or easier today, more competition today or less competition?
I would say to any filmmaker of any color, no matter if they're young or if they're older and want to get into film, is to get into film. Don't think about getting into the industry or the business. This is an art form. You are an artist. You should tell the story from your heart, and you should make it with what you've got. The business, the industry, those are all things that you can't control. What you can control is what you make. There is a woman in the audience, the great Shrikiana Garima, who is an independent filmmaker here in DC, who has really taught me so much about make your work and don't think about the industry. Think about what you want to say, think about your community, think about your love of cinema. And so that's what I would tell anyone who wants to venture into it, is the industry is topsy-turvy, it's in turmoil, the business is upside down. Don't let that stop you from telling your story.
So my grandmother's name was Ava, and so...
So that's why you like me.
Of course. So did you ever ask your parents why they picked Ava? Was it after Ava Gardner, or they just happened to like the name Ava?
My mother said that there was a character on a soap opera that she watched named Ava. That character was named after Ava Gardner, so that's the lineage. You know, Ava's a very popular name for little girls now. It's like a hot name now.
Well, because of you.
Nah, not because of me, but I'm happy to share it with them.
Well,
they tag me on Instagram all the time, and I see
like
thank 99,000 girls.
Thank you very much for what you've done for America and for the world, and thank you for coming here this evening.
Thank you for talking with me. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Have a safe night. Thank you.
Thank you, Ava. Thank you, David. And thank you to each and every one of you here in the beautiful Warner Brothers Theater, watching at home, especially Ava's mom. As a third-generation Southern California girl, I hope everyone on the West Coast is enjoying it as well. And thank you for believing in the Smithsonian, for believing in each other, for carrying forth your own stories, for being unafraid to create that more just and compassionate future, and especially for joining us tonight. Thank you. Good night.